welcome again, and happy Hispanic Heritage Month. We're celebrating um, Mexico's Independence Day here in the Houston area, and Míriam and I were just discussing how this time in the world it seems to be a very popular independence time, right, Míriam?
Yes.
Yes, so welcome to everyone, and I hope you are doing well. We have a new link this evening, so I appreciate your perseverance if you navigated the new link to our colloquium session tonight. We have a very special guest speaker, and before I introduce Míriam Magre Loren, I would just like to remind everyone that at Sarasota University, we have bachelor's, master's, and now our doctoral program that has recently launched. All of our degrees are focused on Montessori education or Montessori leadership. And if you'd like more information about our degree programs, I know Ellen Lastinger is here this evening, our Director of Admissions, and she just dropped into the chat the email to connect with her and receive more information. Dr. Levins, our university president, is here with us this evening as well. Dr. Levins, would you like to say anything to the group?
Thanks, Dr. Pollack. And I just want to say, welcome to all of you. The colloquium is just such a wonderful gathering place for people in our community, supporters of both Sarasota and certainly the world of Montessori. And thank you for spending time with us tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Levins. And without any further delay, I'd like to introduce someone who I hold in very high regard and have had the honor of working with Míriam. She's a deeply passionate and dedicated educator with a wealth of experience around the world. She's taught it not only in the United States, but Spain, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and now in Costa Rica, where she was recently named Teacher of the Year for a global organization. And Míriam, you may talk about that a little more as part of your presentation. She's currently serving as a Montessori guide that is at a school that's nestled between the jungle and the sea. And she regularly comes back to the United States to participate in different professional development. And I just found out that Míriam was chosen to present at the Montessori event for AMS in the upcoming Montessori conference that will be held in Washington, D.C. in March. So I'll also be there, and I hope to see more people and meet you in person in Washington, D.C. And Míriam, we've got to get together for dinner when we're there. So I'm really excited to turn over the evening to Míriam and to hear her words of wisdom as she shares with us her perspectives on accessibility and Montessori education. Thank you, Míriam.
Thank you. Can you see before I begin?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Pollock. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you to Sarasota University to giving me the space to participate in this series of colloquiums. I feel honored to be here with you, and I can't wait to all together reflect on Montessori accessibility. Dr. Pollock already shared a lot about me, so I will just focus on being part of Sarasota University faculty, having a lot of experience in the field of education, and being very passionate about making Montessori accessible. Actually, I'm not an expert on what I'm going to present. However, I have a very strong sense of fairness, of justice, and I think that's a good way to spend this time together to reflect on what can be done to make Montessori more accessible. I have to say, though, that I'm in Costa Rica, and yesterday it was Independence Day, too, for the country. And it's rainy season, so I hope it doesn't happen, fingers crossed. But if I lose power, I'll make sure to record the presentation and share it with Dr. Pollock so you don't miss out. Now I would like you to take a moment to imagine a Montessori environment with children exploring and learning. If you want, you can close your eyes. And once you are ready, I would like to share some environments that I've been in or I've witnessed. I would like to observe the richness of materials, the richness of emotions that you can read through the eyes of the children, of different environments, not just indoors, but also outdoors, the prepared environment. This is in another country, specifically in the Netherlands, where children also prepare their own meal. They had a lot of chances to explore the outdoors. And this one is in Tanzania, also outdoors and indoors, and it is from an early childhood Montessori school. Now, I would like to tell you a little story. In April 2018, I met Miss Antoinette, representing a school in Ghana, specifically in Nima. She visited the school I used to work in Houston, where Dr. Pollock was the principal. She came to the class and showed the students where was that school. When she left, we wanted to write letters for the students that she was working in Ghana, and we did so. And when Dr. Pollock got to visit them, she brought the letters to them. Some years later, I got to visit the school myself. I kept in touch with Miss Antoinette. And I even got to present a 2-day workshop, which happened to be about how to create your own Montessori materials. I have to say that once I was there, I realized of certain things, and that really made me click into the topic I'll be talking about today. What I knew before I went is that it was going to be a Montessori school, that the audience were early childhood and lower elementary teachers, and they had a scarcity of materials. And what I learned is that it was a private traditional school with some Montessori elements, that the teachers were teaching 3 to 18 years old students, that they were super passionate, but most of them were non-Montessori trained, that they taught in super noisy spaces. Actually, the school was next to some kind of market and church. And finally, that they did have some Montessori materials, which they had all located in what they call the Montessori library, a new concept. Here you can see some images of the Montessori library. But this made me think that what I would love is that there's Montessori for everyone, right? And in this case, it was clear that there were not the right tools for that to happen. And this is just one isolated case. So I do believe that all children should have access to quality Montessori education. Now, why? Well, we all know that the key Montessori principles and practices worldwide are the philosophy, the mixed age groups, the trained teachers, the materials, the freedom of choice, and the interrupted work cycles. And what does this give? Well, according to a meta-study by Randolph and other authors, pretty recent, all what I've mentioned has higher outcomes than the traditional methodology, one of which is academic achievement, especially in math and language. However, there's also some proof that there's also benefits for social studies and science. Another highlight is the executive function. In Montessori, students have better self-control, also working memory, concentration, and even problem-solving skills. And this will last for life. Two other things are the social emotional development and creativity. And despite the study or the meta-study found some differences with the traditional system, they recommend to keep researching. Well, with that being known and knowing that altogether it's easier, I would like to share this sentence from Dr. Montessori: "We should walk together on this path of life, for all things are part of the universe and are connected with each other to form one whole unity." So how could we do it together? Well, I thought that we could break it down in 3 parts: having accessible schools, trained teachers, and Montessori materials. Let's start with sufficient and accessible schools. Have you ever wondered about the amount of Montessori schools around the world? Have you ever wondered about their distribution? Well, there's a study by Debs et al. Which analyzes the distribution and also the loyalty, the high fidelity of Montessori around the world. The top countries with Montessori schools are the US, China, Thailand, Germany, Canada, and Tanzania. And you can see in this figure by color the rest. With that, we see that the distribution is clearly not homogeneous. The data estimated 17,763 Montessori schools worldwide, but just 9% of them are government funded. And there were some limitations to this study, being the language used, and also the national organizations were the ones who provided this data. And what causes could you think of? Why do you think this distribution is quite irregular? Please, you could maybe add it to the chat. Okay, maybe you are still thinking.
Míriam, I see Cheryl responded. She said, money and knowledge of Montessori.
Okay, money and knowledge of Montessori. And that resonates with my own thoughts. We can also study the countries that they were highlighted, and that could be one of the reasons. Okay, so I would like to share with you some testimonials that they are related to the public sector, or that they are helping on making Montessori more accessible. The first one is Angie Giovanni, and she is the founder of Montessori Public Works. She shared with me that one of the success factors that she encountered is that once there is a political support of the philosophy and method, it becomes easier to establish the schools, and this increases access and equity. However, there's also several challenges on the way. One is the lack of comprehensive and accessible curriculum. We know that Montessori albums are quite precious and treasured. The other one is challenges in standardized test outcomes. If it's a public school, it will also have to follow certain tests. The other one is the misconception of cost. According to Angie, the cost is not as much long-term compared to a traditional school, especially in early childhood. Bias and concerns. Some people think that Montessori is just for the more rich, the richest. or it's not, it's just for a certain profile. Limited marketing, research, and advocacy. She shared with me that if there is a private education system, there is a lot of marketing, a lot of resources, economic resources, while Montessori has less. And then that sometimes the incompatible public policies make it difficult for the state to accept which could be this mixed age group that Montessori has, or the ratios that Montessori has. I would also like to share the testimonial of Dr. Pollock, who is also in this live call, who used to be the Garden Oaks Montessori Magnet principal for many years. She shared with me that some success factors are that when people understand what Montessori is, like parents and educators, they support the model. She also shared that non-traditional measures as outcomes are also success factors, like portfolios and projects, that if, of course, being a principal of a public school, she had money to pay for the credential and materials, and also the time to support teachers who wanted to go through the training and volunteers to set it up. But she also encountered some challenges. The same that Ms. Angie was sharing, she shared that the misconceptions about Montessori education was one of them. The challenges of the test, state test outcomes, the cost for the credentialing and the materials, and the time that that took. And I would like to share a case study of another option to make Montessori more accessible. I spoke to Mr. Seb Kamder, the co-founder of the Wildflower Schools, which are private, decentralized, nonprofit Montessori schools. They began in 2014 when he was trying to find a suitable school for his son. And from them on, a lot of them have been created in the US and Puerto Rico. Specifically, at this moment, there's 71. This type of school helps decision-making power and control for the teachers who have more than one role in the school. They are small schools. They have 1 or 2 classrooms and maximum 45 students. And the way that they function is that first, the teachers have more than one job, which means that they can earn a bit more. And second, they also use these state-level preschool assistant programs to reduce the tuition, especially in early childhood. Now, the decentralized system has certain benefits, like this autonomy and flexibility, not depending on a bigger organization. It also allows innovation, better alignment to the Montessori principles, faster decision, greater community involvement. They do have, though, a network of their own schools to support each other. Equity through contextual solutions, not being centralized, allows them to align more to their own needs. And as I was saying, it improves this teacher empowerment by having more than one role. Sometimes even the principal is the teacher. I would also like to share another case study, specifically the school where I work now. This is a private nonprofit, bilingual in Montessori, in Costa Rica. They open also, they opened because a couple of parents came by and they also had the desire to have a school where their children could learn in the middle of the jungle. So it has been open since 2007, and currently there are 250 students. It is now accredited by the Costa Rican Ministry of Education. And the way that is funded is first by, it's private, so the parents pay a tuition, but there's also a support for students who cannot access this expensive system, which are private scholarship funds. Parents decide to sponsor someone else, and the school scholarships that are funded by first when a student registers as a fee, an extra fee, and then every year they have also a fee to support the scholarship program. In addition, there are some events organized through the year to fund this. The students who receive the scholarships, they have to have certain academic requirements and also need to demonstrate that they have the financial needs for it. I'm going to try to play a little bit the video, but if you cannot see it, I will cut it.
This is Nosara. It's a beautiful rural village on the Pacific coast, and it's a place we call home. It's a paradise, and if you were to come here on vacation, you might never assume there are any issues here. But lack of education is a growing problem. Of the many students that enter the school system here, only a small percentage actually receive a high school diploma. And sadly, this mostly impacts our young girls.
Muchas de las familias piensan que es mejor que se queden en la casa ayudando con los quehaceres y en muchas ocasiones muchas de ellas se convierten en madres antes de llegar a decidir sobre su propio futuro.
Ultimately, the problem is one of poverty. Needs of the households become a little bit more important than the educational needs of these children. These young women who could be leaders in our community end up taking roles that then perpetuate the cycle of poverty.
Recibí una beca para asistir a Del Mar Academy a través del programa de becas y es una oportunidad que mi familia y yo no queremos perder.
The fact
I'm going to stop it here, but this video shows how these scholarships really benefit the local community and open doors for their future. Another case study is a bilingual Montessori school, CASA, in Pijnaker, the Netherlands, where I've also worked. This school opened in 2011. It is a special semi-public bilingual school in the Netherlands. They have special schools, which are like, they have some special education, right? And this could be a Montessori school, or it could be a free school that they call. And it's semi-public, which means that they receive some public funding. At the moment, they have 450 students, and it is growing. They're opening a high school. And how does it fund, right? Because the public funding is not enough. So what they do is through parent contribution, yearly parent contribution for students who are 4 to 12 years old, a fee for before and after school activities, which are run by the same teachers, and it doesn't really feel as a after school activity. It does feel like an extension of the Montessori day. And also the fees for childcare for babies, toddlers, and 3 years old. In the Netherlands, there's a lot of government support. So in some of these cases that the school receives funding for, the parents can ask for reimbursement. I'm not going to play you the video, but it is a beautiful environment, and maybe you can find it in the references and find it in YouTube. In this case, she is the co-founder, Ms. Tessa Vessels, and she shared that some of the success factors are that there's access to Montessori education, and also the family and community support. In the Netherlands, in order to open a semi-public school, you first need to have a request from a certain amount of families of that need. And from there on, there's going to be some bureaucracy. She explains that's quite long, actually, like 3 years. And ultimately, they will be able to open. The time, as I was saying, is quite long. Another challenge is the location of a public teaching facility to open the school. The government gives you a building, and that takes a while also. The alignment to the national standards, as any public or semi-public school, they need to go through this test. In this case, it is in grade 8, and they're called Dorstrom-Toots. And managing the Montessori philosophy and following these standards, she also finds it challenging. So what can we learn? In order to have sufficient and accessible Montessori schools, we need to understand the particular barriers to open a school. Of course, each country has its own challenges. To make the Montessori curriculum and philosophy more accessible. To align curriculum with state national standards. To demystify the cost and reputation. Creation or support of more institutions that advocate for accessible Montessori through research, studies, and parent advocacy that can also support with all the previous. Can you think of any other thing that we could do? Please share in the chat. And I'm gonna go back to the previous slide so you can see what I suggested after all the contributions of these experts.
Don't see anything quite yet, but what came to my mind, Míriam, was supporting one another and creating a network for materials and educator opportunities. Oh, and I see Melissa added appeal to the stakeholders through the education of the adults.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your contributions. We're going to continue with now focusing on the trained teachers. The real preparation for education is the study of oneself. The training of the teacher is something far more than the learning of ideas. It includes the training of the character. It is a preparation of the spirit. This was a quote by Maria Montessori. But of course, in addition to prepare our spirit, we also need to go through training. So I wonder if you've ever thought if the amount of teacher education programs are enough to train all those teachers in those schools. Well, following the same pattern that the previous study, I decided to access MACTI, AMI, and AMS websites and create my own map to see where most of the TEPs are located around the world. Of course, this also has limitations, such as the finding worldwide Montessori TEP data and how updated the data I found is. So I put next to each other the maps. The first map is the map of the location of the Montessori schools, and the second map is a map of the location of the teacher education programs. And you can see that the distribution is quite proportional. You can also see that there's not a lot of concentration of training educational programs, and that could have an impact on how loyal some countries are to Montessori, because if we don't have training centers, it is difficult to train Montessori. The first testimonial is someone who got a scholarship offered by a Montessori institution to train as an instructor. In this case is the MM75 fund coming from AMI. So this is an option to get the scholarship. She shared in the website of AMI that the success factors were that this scholarship reduce financial stress. And I'm sorry I didn't read her name. She's Prabha Kartik. She also shared that she just had to pay 50% of the training, and that it was interest-free, an interest-free loan that she had to return in 5 years. However, there were also challenges. The high personal and financial cost, the family commitments to combine with these 7 years of training, which, of course, the loan was not enough to cover all these costs. Another testimonial is from Elisa Herboth. She was awarded with a scholarship by a Montessori institution to train as a teacher. In this case is American Montessori Society. And she just shares positive factors in one of the magazines of American Montessori Society. She says that this support enabled her participation in the training. It helped her move in her career. And of course, long-term, it also impacted a lot of students who she was able to teach. Another option is to get private scholarships to support the Montessori teachers. In this case, I spoke to Ms. Peki Tunze. Peki lives in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, and she actually is finishing up an AMI 6 to 12 training to become a Montessori guide. She is the founder of her own school, as you can see below, and she is able to attend this training thanks to a scholarship she got from Arthur Weiser Foundation. I'm sure there's many more. I'm just trying to share some specific options and possibilities. She is very happy. She says that she's able to certificate in her own country, cost-free, and also with the same scholarship, she has been able to renovate her school. Some challenges are the limited frequency of these courses, which just happen, actually is the first one that happens in Tanzania. It hosts students from Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Kenya. Of course, these scholarships are also limited, so this is another challenge. And lack of training, it also impacts on the fidelity of the philosophy. I got to speak for a while with her, and she was sharing with me how where she lives and is from, there's a lot of Montessori schools. However, not a lot of them are really loyal to the philosophy because of this lack of training. Another option is when the teacher education programs train public system teachers. And one example is the Dallas Independent District that has associated with the Shelton Montessori Training Institute. Some success factors are the support of the community. Thanks to the support of the community, this has grown. The hybrid format that they offer, which increases accessibility for the public system teachers, and also that the district finances this training under some conditions, some of which are that they have to have a teaching certificate on the level and some teaching experience in that district, and of course submit the documentation. But there's also challenges. And that's that one day had to be done. So making the first public school contact, creating a network, and creating the documents that align the state and the Montessori standards are some of the challenges that they might face. Another testimonial and possibility is that the school where the teacher works, sponsors your training. Giuseppe had this luck. and she shared that some success factors are the access to Montessori training while having a job secured, and that this also reduces, of course, his expenses. And the challenges are that, of course, the school pays for your training, but you commit to work at that school for a specific number of years. And in the case that that doesn't happen, you have to pay it back or to pay part back. I would like to share with you a very interesting case study about a nonprofit teacher education program named Instituto Nueva La Escuela. This institute is located in Puerto Rico. It all began when Dr. Garcia Blanco, who is the founder of this institute, opened the first Montessori school in Puerto Rico, called Juan Ponce de Leon. After that, several schools facing violence, high dropout rates, and not a big family engagement, got together and met with her. And here is where Instituto Nueva La Escuela began in 2004. At the moment, this institute supports 60 Puerto Rican public schools that they adopt the method, and they have partnered with the Department of Education, and they even are recognized by law. It is a successful public education system based in Montessori. I was talking to Ms. Larissa Parrilla, who is the curriculum coordinator for Instituto Nueva Escuela, and she was sharing the success factors. It is a model of transformation. Thanks to this public access to Montessori education and Montessori training of Montessori teachers, this community-based approach really empowered the students to change and the community to transform. It all began when, as I said, Dr. Garcia started her own school, but then after, when they began the institute, they needed more teachers, right? So it began by inviting some teacher educator program instructors from CMTE in New York, and slowly they trained several locals. The institution received the MACTI accreditation, and at this moment, Instituto Nueva Escuela is training most of the public school teachers themselves. They receive recognition and awards worldwide, and they have a lot of community and social initiatives. Some challenges, especially at the beginning, were the lack of trained Montessori teachers in the public system, and also the resistance of implementing the alternative education models in the traditional system. Nowadays, they still have some challenges, one of which is the funding, which they mainly do by philanthropy, and also some good actions that private companies show. And also this instability that the country faces. Another option, which is not for training, but more for refreshing, is to have free access to Montessori recorded lessons. An example is Rising Tide Montessori, which is a free page full of videos of Montessori lessons that you can use in many ways. As a parent, you can do it to learn about Montessori. As a teacher or guide, you can use it to refresh your own knowledge. You can also use it for homeschooling, or as a TEP, you can use it as part of your training. Or as a school, you could even use it as a parent education series. The challenges are that there was capital needed to begin with it because it's for free. And then, of course, to upload more videos, there's also money needed. And the other challenge is that to watch them, you need to have internet. So what can we learn in relation to having educated Montessori teachers? Well, we need a better distribution of these teacher education programs, increase financial and logistic accessibility, acceptance as part of the state or the national public system, and creation or support of more institutions that advocate for accessible Montessori through research, studies, parent advocacy. Can you think of any other way? And again, I'm going to go back in case that inspires you to think of any other way. While I wait, I would like to share with you how interesting I find that in most of the cases, all the Montessori schools were created because of the parents' need, that they really wanted the best for their children. And also how Ms. Larissa of the Instituto Nueva Escuela shared with me that there were several times when the system seemed to go down, but the parent community really was very strong on advocating for Montessori. And that's how it became so popular in Puerto Rico. I see that there might be a contribution in the chat, but I cannot see it.
Cheryl says support and connection with experienced Montessorians as they are in training. And I also added care for children while parents are in training.
Thank you very much. So true. So intense and time consuming. Okay, and now we are heading the last part, which is the Montessori materials. Do you know how much it costs to set up a Montessori environment? Well, I'm sure Dr. Pollock knows, and I'm sure that some of you do. It is costly. It seems that it can cost from $10,000 to $35,000, depending on the quality and completeness of the environment. However, there is a research study just about to be published, they are reviewing it, from Lillard, called When Bigger Looks Better, that says that in early childhood, the Montessori model can save schools up to $3,000 per year in the long term due to the larger sizes that a Montessori environment can have of students. So you can have more students, which means that you can kind of get to save some extra money. Also, there's less consumables in a Montessori class, which will also lower the cost. But of course, not every school can initially afford such an expense. So some existing practices in relation to the materials are to donate spare materials to other schools in need. And this benefits both the school that gives and the school that receives. The school that gives makes a good action and frees some space, and the one that receives can use them. And also, it is an environmentally friendly action because it reuses and doesn't create waste. The challenges are that, of course, it depends on the state of the material because it's not new, and also that some materials, the most popular, might never be available. Another practice is the second-hand Montessori material markets. You can see there's one, for example, in Facebook, where schools or private people sell materials that they don't need anymore. This has similar success factors. In addition, they receive some money as an exchange. The challenges are again the same, that they are not new, the materials, in most of the occasions, and some materials are never up for sale. I have one testimonial of another possibility in regards to availability of materials. To create do-it-yourself materials by repurposing. Teresa, a Montessori guide from Ghana, created her own sandpaper letters, but instead of sandpaper, she used some funky Ghanaian fabric. She found successful having hands-on educational resources and reducing waste because she used some repurposed fabric. Some challenges were the need of time to create all those resources and also the lower durability of the materials. Another testimonial is to move the resources around, like the case of Tatenda Blessing, the founder of Montessori on Wheels. He explains his beautiful project, social project, and he explains that many of the successes relate to the community. He helps co-create and involve the community in this Montessori mobile environment. This also increases accessibility. It helps parents to get educated through this exposure and focuses on equity, culture, and identity. It also helps to strengthen partnership with schools in the area, specifically in the Denver area. And this is a constant growth. He explains that he hopes to expand. Some challenges are, once more, the perception of the Montessori as a elite, this bias that we were saying, or not being familiar with the methodology, the logistics of it and the cost, the sustainability to have a consistent quality, the barriers at the time of access, and building this cultural relevance and community trust of the materials that some families are not familiar with yet. So what can we learn? What do we need to have Montessori materials? First, to recognize the particular barriers to acquire Montessori material is not the same in one area of a country than the other, or in one country than the other, or in one neighborhood than the other. That craft, do-it-yourself materials, when access is not possible, is a possibility. Take proper care of the already existing materials in the class, very important, and sometimes that's forgotten. Share spare, used or non-used materials with other schools in need, and promote at-cost production materials rather than maximizing profits. I personally think that Montessori materials have become extremely expensive, and there might be a way to sell them cheaper. Okay, so can you think of any way to ensure that all Montessori schools have Montessori materials in addition to all what I've shared?
Your list was very comprehensive, Míriam.
I know, and I talk very fast also.
Yeah, you have so many great ideas. Melissa said, and shipping. Shipping costs can be very, very high. And Melissa says a parent wish list, volunteers helping. There's donors choose. I know that's very popular in the States to help stock classrooms.
Thank you very much for all these ideas. Actually, the shipping is also a good case. Me working in Costa Rica makes me think a lot of it, because all the Montessori materials we have are shipped from the US because there's not a factory here, right? So it makes me think of the sustainability of the system. In the school where I work, there is the capital to buy them, but environmentally it's very unsustainable to have to fly this distance, all the materials.
At Garden Oaks, we ordered many of our materials were coming, we were ordering from a US vendor. However, they in turn had ordered products from, I think, Mexico, And in the end, because some of the materials were created with wood that was, I don't know how they did this, but somehow in the import process, they determined that some of the wood that was used to construct our materials were created with endangered trees. The products were turned around and shipped back. So I think, you know, having some standards too, and understanding about these restrictions, if there's international trade going on, as a school level, we may not be able to impact that, but proactively researching the sources of our materials would help too.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone who shared their experience and knowledge. And also thanks to Job, my partner and my inspiration. I have a very long bibliography. I use a lot of resources. It's very interesting how much information is out there, how much research. And here you have my contact in case you want to contact me, and also the QR code to receive your certificate of attendance. And I think I'm gonna turn off my projection, should I?
Yeah, maybe Míriam, you could put your email in the chat when you remove the slideshow so that folks can still, if they haven't had time to write down, or maybe take a picture of the screen. Maybe you've done that already. Also, remember that these recordings are available on our Sarasota University YouTube channel. So you can share these presentations like Míriam's tonight. Please share them with your friends and colleagues at your schools. They're great resources to share with parents as well. But these recordings are on the YouTube channel, research or Google Sarasota University, and we're there. And I'm wondering, Míriam, you have done a fabulous job. I learned so much in this presentation tonight. If anyone has questions for Míriam, feel free to come off mute. Any questions for Míriam?
Thank you very much.
I don't have a question. Thank you, Míriam, for everything. I did want to say also, it just occurred to me, I'm wondering if, sorry, I'm on my phone. I don't know how this works very well.
You're fine.
I'm usually on my laptop. I wanted to say, I'm wondering if in some countries, it might be a good idea to, because when I went to Mexico the summer before the pandemic, and the more I talk to people after that, the more I realize that it's a lot of the older belief systems. And that's what I've encountered here in all of my life in Montessori, is that these belief systems that, well, you know, I went to this school and it was just fine, right? Like the old systems are fine. And in Mexico, I met a gentleman who was trying to open just a school, and a private school where he was serving breakfast and lunch, and he kind of had some practical life. He wasn't calling himself Montessori yet, but he said that he was really having trouble getting the buy-in from the public because they really believed it was best for young children to stay at home with one caretaker that was a family member. And my husband's from Mexico, so we kind of met him just having this conversation. And then, of course, he didn't have many materials, so I have a bunch stored in my garage in hopes of meeting him again one day. But I was wondering if in perhaps like a nearby university or school that is training other teachers that go into public or governmental systems, if you could offer a class that partners with the public university or colleges, and part of their teacher training to become certified as a teacher would be maybe a semester of learning about Montessori, and they could do some volunteer work where they create some of the materials that they've seen, and then you taking care of education And because I know Montessori was maybe like 2 sentences in college for me. So I'm wondering, in this way, they can become familiar with it. Perhaps their interest would shift. So I know that might be controversial for the government funded system, but at the same time, part of that volunteer work could be making materials for schools that don't have access to them. So you're kind of taking care of 2 things at once. And I never thought about this before, but it was because of Míriam's presentation that it occurred to me that that might be one way that we haven't really tried yet.
Thank you. That sounds very interesting. And actually, I did not mention it, but Tatenda from Montessori and Wheels, her whole beginning of the project was to invite families that they weren't sure about the methodology. So he has them experience what Montessori is, and then or even educators, of course, you live with that taste of, I want more, right? So it is also exactly what you say, right? Like when you have it misunderstood, Peggy from Tanzania, she also said that in her country, a lot of families believe that in Montessori, kids play, and because they don't test, standardized test, that's not good enough. So again, we are back to this misconception, and what you suggest sounds very interesting, actually.
Sure. And look at how many years later we are in this journey that Dr. Montessori started, and we still are having trouble getting that confidence in the public. And I think that the older the children get, I teach, currently I'm teaching elementary too, so the upper elementary, but lower elementary too. It's like that, the older they get, the less the confidence is that this system that's a little different, they're not sure if their kids are going to measure up somehow. So it's definitely in that getting them to buy in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And Hinin is saying that she got so many great ideas tonight, Míriam. She's planning to start a school in Myanmar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So,
thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, we'll look forward to hearing more from you and how the school is going.
Yes, I will let you know.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone again for being here tonight. I've dropped into the chat our info@sarasotauniversity.edu email if you're interested in learning more about our bachelor's completion program or our master's in Montessori education or Montessori leadership or our doctoral program. Please feel free to reach out. Our next doctoral cohort will launch in January. So again, thank you everyone for being here, for taking time out of your day. And thank you, Míriam, for such a fabulous presentation tonight. Learned so much. Thank you for your contributions to Montessori education around the world.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. See you next month.